Hello, I'm Norty the movie fan. I review the reviews so you don't have to. Well, this is my third time defending Signs from the Nostalgia Critic, and I came very close to not doing it given that I didn't think it was that relevant anymore, since Chris Stuckman did his analyzed review last year, but I figure there are a lot of stupid people in the world, so why not go for it one last time? After much research, I think I found the main problem with my other two videos. I critiqued the reviewer and not the review. I commented too much on his comedy and presentation more than on the review itself. Plus the lighting was just shit, and you can't take me seriously when I look like something you would find in a pretentious art gallery. So this video will be much faster as I won't comment on how that video fails as a comedy. You can watch my other video for that where I myself fail at comedy. So let's dive into the invasion of the nitpicking again. This is the Nostalgia Critic review of Signs.
Ah, yes. See that bland, non-expressive dead face that only a Culkin can give you? Get used to that, folks. There's a lot of it in the rest of this movie.
By God, Roy Culkin is acting in a way that fits how the character is written? How dare he act like he should?
So they see that there are crop circles in the middle of their fields. Wait, why did that warrant the little girl going, "Ah!"
Huh, didn't Bo say she thought it was a dream just a minute ago?
Are you in my dream too?
And later in the movie, doesn't she tell Morgan that she always has dreams in which he dies in them that you left out of the review? But whatever, I guess you just thought it wasn't important.
And okay, directing 101, it usually helps if you tell us the name of the place before you give us 5 minutes of a scene.
Nitpicking! Bring up the counter.
Houdini peed. I think he's sick.
Why don't you take him outside? I'll call Dr. Crawford.
He doesn't treat animals.
And he'll know what to do.
Yeah, come on, dog anatomy is pretty close to human anatomy, right?
Right, it's not like we see later that the vet was the one who killed Graham's wife and he doesn't want him anywhere near him or his family. You see, this is why you need to pay attention to the film. I know you're all about comedy, and to be fair, I've gotten plenty of things wrong before, but for fuck's sake, both you and Rob watched this movie and neither of you caught that? It's weird because that's one of the few things in this movie that isn't subtle at all.
Spittin'. By the time I got there, Mrs. Kindleman had sprayed the whole damn place.
Forgive me, what I'm doing is called Tarantinoing, where you talk about something that has nothing to do with the rest of the story, but is kind of funny and a little quirky. It was very avant-garde in its day and used to develop some strong character traits, but now it's just used as a cheap gimmick for pretentious screenwriters to draw a ton of attention to their writing style as opposed to serving the plot.
Caroline? Please stop calling me father.
What's wrong?
I don't hear my children.
I think you missed a line. Ah, here we go. Mel Gibson turns as if something is wrong. As he says the line, "I think something is wrong," which gives the cop reason to ask, "What's wrong?"
Or maybe she was wondering what was wrong by the fact that he turned, walked away, told her not to call him father, and walked over as if he was listening for something. I don't know about you, but I typically don't get up, walk away, and face the opposite direction if I'm still talking to someone.
Fell on me. He wanted to kill Bo.
So, wait a minute. A crop circle gets the girl going, "Ah!" But when a dog tries to attack her, she sits calmly with her legs folded?
Well, she's in shock. I mean, that thing is a German Shepherd. Those things can kill you.
And for that matter, Gibson caught the absence of his kids whispering in the distance, yet the stabbing of a violent animal somehow didn't catch his ear? He can pick up, but he can't pick up. Talk about selective hearing!
But didn't you just say there was no screaming involved? Oh, and nitpicking.
Oh, well, maybe it's the fact that there's so much goddamn low-level whispering in this movie that the actual absence of it seems legitimately startling.
Looks like it was meant to be.
Okay, random clip for no real reason, but whatever. Not gonna critique your presentation this time.
Yeah, so,
Alien report. Stepped on roof and swung on swing. Very confusing mission accomplished.
Well, as the army guy says later, he was probing, making sure things were all clear. When he was spotted, he ran off, bumping into the swing as he did. Kinda like this.
They call the cop in the morning and we partake in yet another favorite of Shyamalan's, the pointless pan across.
So how are you, Meryl?
Fine.
I never got a chance to tell you, but I...
Now, here's the thing with these kind of shots. These can work if they're trying to get across an uncomfortable mood or unworldly environment. But through most of the movie, we're in everyday farmland, which obviously isn't that scary, and these shots are done during non-suspenseful moments. So once again, it just serves to shove the style in our faces as opposed to actually get us engrossed in the situation.
You're right. Pan shots can be used to create a mood or atmosphere, which this movie does many other times. But they can also be used to establish a location. In fact, saying you can only use panning shots for 2 reasons makes you sound kind of pretentious. Here's a little story for you. I actually wasn't allowed to use pan shots for a long time in my school projects for the simple fact that my professor didn't like them. And you'll never believe what happened. My project suffered because of it.
I got these Scandinavian women who can jump clean over me.
Okay, we're sexist dicks who don't watch the Olympics. Will you arrest something?
Arrest something? What the hell is she gonna arrest? Why is it that everyone takes moments that are supposed to be funny so seriously? If you're gonna critique it for not being funny. Fuck you.
Oh, hey, aliens. Didn't think we'd see those in this movie.
Okay, first of all, we did see them earlier.
Oh my god, it's Black Suit Spider-Man.
And second, this movie isn't about the aliens. The aliens are just a backdrop, and the movie is first and foremost about this family and the idea of faith versus coincidences.
Either this is one of the most elaborate hoaxes ever created, or basically, it's for real.
That's right. People years ago did crop circles as an elaborate hoax to convince people that aliens were real. But, in a friggin' unbelievable coincidence, the real aliens had the exact same way of communicating as those hoaxes. What are the fucking odds?
There's an entire scene based around the idea of coincidences, but I'll save that for the end. Alright, you may not believe this, but I am not kidding when I say that the next 4 minutes of this review are filled with nothing but nitpicking.
Right after another pointless pan shot. We also get some amazingly hokey acting from this general guy. After, you guessed it. What are you, sucking on your mom's teat? Close your lips, you weirdo! They meet for lunch in a restaurant when we come across another staple of M. Night Shyamalan, M. Night Shyamalan. You know, for a guy who apparently owns all these fields, you never see him do any farm work.
Hell, some of them don't even make any sense.
The next day, they all go into town to run some errands, and we figure out through poor exposition that Gibson used to be a reverend.
Caroline? Please stop calling me father.
Merrill's a Class A screw-up. He would just swing that bat as hard as he could every time. Didn't matter what the coaches said. Didn't matter who was on base. He would just whip that bat through the air as hard as he could.
Thanks, person who clearly has a connection to Joaquin Phoenix, though we don't know what it is and we will never see again. I will not miss you.
Wouldn't that be his teammate? And you know, I wouldn't mind that much if I knew people weren't gonna watch this movie and just take the critic at his word. Anything can be edited to look horrible. Also, as a little bit of a side note here, that general has his own YouTube account. I'll put some links in the description. Go watch it. It's kind of awesome.
They decide to finally turn on the TV and see that the aliens are indeed landing. Or just hovering around in the skies for a bit. Why nobody approaches them or takes them down is anybody's guess.
They have force fields. Again, explained in the movie.
Everything people have written about in science books is going to change. The history of the world's future is on the TV right now. We need to record this so you can show your children this tape and say you were there. For your children, Bo.
What kid talks like this? It's like a fucking 8-year-old version of Morpheus!
Okay, 1, nitpicking, and 2, this is actually a common trope, the freaky kid who talks weird because of something tragic. If you hate this kid, you also have to hate the kids from The Sixth Sense and The Babadook.
This image has not been adjusted or enhanced in any way. What you're seeing is real. It's unbelievable. Everything they wrote in science books is about to change.
Okay, so we're in a world where the children talk like adults and the adults talk like children.
Nitpicking, and how the hell would you react?
Let's hear some...
No! I want an answer. If you agree with this guy, please leave a comment below on what you would react like if there was an alien invasion.
Oh, well, these credible kindergarten drawings will certainly convey the seriousness of the book's intent.
The book was not meant to be taken seriously. Hell, it was proven wrong later because it said the aliens probably would not be hostile. And if that isn't good enough for you, it was written by a guy named Dr. Bimbu.
Oh, and there's also a drawing of their house on fire in the book with 3 dead people that look like them outside. My god, this obviously means...
Nothing. It means nothing. They are just creating panic for themselves. That is the point of this scene.
Still walking. Looks like it was meant to be.
I know that's not the best thing for a murderer to tell a murder victim's husband, but... what can I say? I'm a bad writer.
Alright, I'll give you this. That scene may have been a little blunt. It's one of those things I'm willing to overlook because of the rest of the scene being so good. The next couple minutes are nitpicking, again.
Let's try this conversation again. You start with, holy shit, I got an alien in my house! But these giant aliens somehow slip their teeny tiny hands through the bottom of a door. Rather than call the police because, fuck, that's what anyone not in a Shyamalan film would do. Oh my god, it looks like every other alien I've ever seen in every other movie!
God be with us all.
Well, good job to the newscasters for not spreading panic or alarm. When have you ever heard a newscaster talk like this? So the family decides to hold down the fort, you know, stay in the area where they absolutely know the aliens are.
They had an entire scene where they voted on whether they should stay or go. They decided to stay and board up the house because that was where their mom lived and they didn't want to abandon it. Plus, leave, go, in the end, you're still in danger.
We're going to board up every window in this house. How do we know boards will do anything? Because they seem to have trouble with pantry doors.
Really, Shyamalan, did you read that line out loud? Did you ever read that line out loud? You couldn't have. You clearly couldn't have. I mean, you just stated that these technologically advanced aliens, these creatures that we are supposed to be afraid of, cannot get through pantry doors.
Alright, first off, they can get through doors. Alright, I will admit, that piece of dialogue, taken out of context, is kind of dumb. But the only times they can't get in or out of something is when it's either locked or blocked by something. And hey, they did get out, it just took them a while, as it would for any creature. Now you may be thinking, wait, aren't these guys supposed to be strong? Yes, but I'll get to that a little later. They do have weapons. They have that little gas weapon on their wrists.
So they hide in the basement, but thank God, another door is there to protect them. After spending the night down there, yeah, they never figured out how to get through the door.
You know, it's actually kind of interesting how he didn't show the scene where Graham had to stop them because they had turned the doorknob and were starting to get in. It's almost like he left that out to make his argument seem more valid. No, I'm sure he just forgot.
But one of them gets the bright idea to try and grab the kid from the window.
Not a window. See, that's nitpicking. That is what I've been listening to for most of this review. In fact, this entire flashback scene is nitpicking. No, fuck it, I don't want to use the counter anymore. Let's just get to the climax.
Yes, at the time it didn't make sense, but now Gibson knows that the term swing away was, I swear to God I'm not kidding here, God's way of telling Gibson in the future that Joaquin Phoenix is supposed to swing his bat to defeat the alien.
Meryl, swing away.
Of course! Who would have possibly put together that the best way to defeat this thing was to beat the shit out of it? Nobody could have come to that conclusion. Well, obviously God had to kill a reverend's wife in order for somebody to figure that out. It just makes perfect sense.
Alright, this is where the whole idea of coincidences comes in. You see, there was an entire scene earlier that, again, he didn't show, about the idea of divine fate versus just plain luck. Was it God who was the reason all these pieces fit together, or was it all just a huge coincidence?
Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
Maybe it all was just a bunch of luck, but Graham believes that it was just too much for it to be not part of some plan. So why would God do this? Well, one, if we're going by the God from the book of Job, then he did something horrible just to prove it, which, yeah, I can totally believe God would do. But here's what I personally think. If you've ever seen Run Lola Run, then you know that film shows how one little action can affect your entire future. What do I mean by this? Well, look at it this way. Let's say that Graham's wife lives. Well, then Meryl would not have had any reason to stay with them, and thus they might have died, since Meryl was the only one with enough strength and quick enough to actually kill this thing. Or maybe they would have left the house. After all, if she had not died, then Graham never would have gone to Ray's house, and if he didn't go to Ray's house, then he never would have known that they should go towards water, and thus they probably would have just drove off until they eventually ran out of gas, and then were killed by the aliens. Speaking of their weakness towards water...
Oh, and you wanna know what the big twist was in this one? Apparently the only thing that can kill the aliens is water. Yeah, it's like acid to them. One drop hurts them like crazy. Probably should have thought that through before attacking a planet mostly covered in water!
I have several explanations for this, and no, the rumor that the aliens were demons and the water was holy water isn't one of them. Alright, 1. What if the aliens did not know that they were allergic to water? The only hint we are given is when Ray says that none of their crop circles are near water. But crops don't grow in water, and even if there are none close to the coast, they would want to be closer to land, given that that is where they are planning on invading. Need more proof? Well, look at the alien in the end. He looks slightly surprised when the water touches him. That would also give a good reason as to why they came down with nothing covering their skin. This also gives credit to another theory I have. The aliens clearly are strong and have thick skin. After all, that probably explains why they don't have any guns. Or maybe they just didn't know how to make them. After all, the aliens in War of the Worlds didn't know what the wheel was, so anything's possible. But if they are strong, then how did Meryl beat the alien to the ground and grab and cut off their fingers? The answer? The water vapor in the air. If liquid water can flat out melt them like acid, then water in gas form weakens them. But if that explanation isn't good enough for you, let's say they do know. Well, as Ray said earlier, they don't have any crop circles near water, so if they do know that water kills them, they are at least keeping their battle far away from it. But my favorite theory is this. The water might not have been what kills them, but the bacteria in the water. Throughout the entire film, Bo keeps filling up glasses of water and saying, it's contaminated. So perhaps the water that kills them, aka tap water, the only water we see that kills them, is contaminated with bacteria, and the bacteria in the air is what weakens them too. There's actually a lot of interesting theories on this, but let's say that they are all wrong. Let's say that the aliens really are that stupid to come to a planet that is 80% of their poison and they know it. Well, the aliens in War of the Worlds came to a planet that was mostly their poison, and E.T. forgot that he could fly away from a planet that would eventually kill him. So if you say this movie sucks because of that reason, then you have to hate those movies too. And at least here you can make the argument that the aliens were desperate and wanted to use us for food or fertilizer or something. All E.T. wanted were some fucking plants.
That's right. The message of the story is that everything has and always will fall perfectly into place. The day is saved, everything happens for a reason, which means that his faith is restored and he goes back to being a reverend. Gotta hand it to you, God, you do work in mysterious ways. For in the grand plan, he took Gibson's faith away just so he could give it right back to him. So in reality, nothing has changed at all. Oh, except that there's a dead wife in the mix. But still, thank you, God. Thank you for killing my beloved, just so everything could go back to exactly the way it was before.
Wait a minute, didn't you say something in your Star Trek V review that kind of fits this scenario?
Now, to be fair, according to most texts, God has asked for a lot of bizarre things.
Jesus, die on the cross. What? Abraham, kill your son. Huh? Moses, wander through the desert for about 40 years.
Asking for a starship almost sounds reasonable. I'm sorry, but this movie's horrible. I never got why so many people liked it. It's overly dramatic.
Actually, it's not. It has a great sense of humor to it that you just call stupidity.
Annoyingly slow.
To add atmosphere.
Has a real ego when it comes to its own style.
You're always the one praising Stanley Kubrick, who pretty much invented style over substance.
And of course, any sense of logic is totally ignored.
No, it isn't, and I just explained why. I'm Norty the Movie Fan. I review the reviews so you don't have to. Alright, so what does this dark shadow want me to do next? Oh no. No, those things took up most of my 2013. I don't want to go back to those. 5 minutes or less. Huh. Well, maybe that's doable.